Today is the 16th of October. My name is Paul Glumaz, and welcome to General Welfare Presents. Okay. So, we've had the beginnings of a major revolution taking place in the last week. A global revolution, and by implication, an internal revolution in the United States. The revolutionary in the United States is the current president of the United States, Donald Trump. He is the revolutionary at this point. He has declared war on the military-industrial complex by name. He has declared war on both parties. He has declared war on the bankers behind the military-industrial complex. And he's also declared war on the Green New Deal. So he is calling himself, in one of his presentations, an island of one. And what you have to understand is true leadership is an island of one. You are not you are in a solitary responsibility for the nation or for the future of humanity. It's your emotional connection to the nation and to the future of humanity that is determining what you do. And in so doing, you are not in any way conforming to public opinion or to consensus or to what the media is saying is the issue or any of that. You have taken it upon yourself to that responsibility, irrespective of how popular or unpopular your commitment, and you're taking responsibility for the nation, for its future. And so we're seeing in Donald Trump something that is beginning to evoke in people a deeper quality of a deeper sort of emotion, a deeper sort of, not this nudging thing that goes on where Cass Sunstein wrote the book on nudging, and basically the media is no longer the media. It's mainly the intelligence community and some kind of agency, advertising agency. It's like, it's not anymore anything to do with reality or anything to do with any truthfulness or anything to even report on what's going on in the world. It's basically spin and the intelligence community and public relations. It's all public relations. There's no longer any news. It's all public relations. That's what you're dealing with. And Trump is just cutting through all of that. He's refusing to go along with that. And he's speaking to a population, and they're not really covering him. It's only through his, people watching his press conferences and people, reading his tweets, that they have any idea of what's really going on with Trump. But fortunately, he has 60 million people out there on his Twitter account, and quite a few people do watch his press conferences on the internet, and but the important thing here is, since the firing of John Bolton, Trump is behind the scenes or in the background, has been coordinating with Russia, has been coordinating with Turkey, has been coordinating with Syria, has been coordinating with Iran, has been coordinating with Saudi Arabia and with Russia to end these conflicts that are at the center of the world oil production, and the center of the connection to Africa and Asia and Europe is there in the Middle East. It's this whole area in the Middle East, which is the pivot. And the policy of the British and their allies has been to keep that area in permanent conflict, whether it's by promising the Kurds an independent state, or creating ISIS and al-Nusra and al-Qaeda, or the Israeli-Palestinian thing, or the Shia versus Sunni, or which is Iran versus Saudi Arabia, or to keep it all going in a continuous war. And when the U.S. and Trump correctly said, we spent $8 trillion after in Iraq, or $7 trillion in Iraq, and we ended up not only our own bringing thousands of U.S., tens of thousands wounded, Americans wounded, but he said millions on the other side died. Millions. He said millions. That is, the United States was responsible for a mass genocide in the Middle East, or triggering the process that led to a mass genocide and mass refugee flights and so forth and so on. And for a president of the United States to admit that what his predecessors have done created this kind of horror and this kind of hell is extremely significant. And I'll explain why. One, Trump has announced that the United States is no longer the policeman of the world. It's no longer the endless wars. But without the U.S. military, without the United States playing that role of intervening everywhere to foment factions, to destroy nations like Libya, etc., on behalf of the Wall Street and London, the City of London empire, there is no longer a military enforcement arm for the empire. This is very significant. And the situation with the Kurds is very straightforward. Since 1974, there's been a war between the PKK within Turkey. In 1998, Syria and Turkey were about to go to war with each other over the Kurds, and they made an agreement to allow Turkey to intervene into Syria to deal with the Kurds. And so this was an agreement between Syria and Turkey. The Obama administration promised these Kurds an independent state, armed them, okay, and then once the whole thing shifted, they became the base of operations for operations inside Turkey. So what has been done is to allow Turkey to threaten the Kurds, to force the Kurds to enter into agreement with the government of Syria, so that they are now under the government of Syria. Up until now, Syrian troops were not in the area. Syria had no control over this area. This is where the oil is. This is where a lot of other things are. Now the Syrian forces are coming in, and the Russians are providing the policing between the Syrian military and the Turkish military. So this means that Syria is now restoring full sovereignty over this area. That also opens up the door for Syria to begin to take back the refugees, of which millions, maybe 5 million, maybe 3 million, maybe 4 million are sitting in Turkey right now. 2 million to 5 million are sitting in Turkey. And they will be coming back into Syria. So this is an amazing development. But it was worked out between the U.S., Russia, China, Pakistan, Iran, and Turkey. This was all worked out. This is no longer a divide and conquer arrangement. These things are beginning to be taken care of. Putin was in Saudi Arabia. The Saudis are now working with the Russians and the U.S. equally. Imran Khan, the Prime Minister of Pakistan, was in Iran, and now he's in Saudi Arabia. He has begun, with the help on behalf of Trump, he is now mediating a move to bring Iran and Saudi Arabia into some kind of peace agreement, which also would include Yemen. This is a different world. And you can tell because of the howls against Trump, the impeachment drive, the insane Republicans going off on, he lost Syria. What do you mean he lost Syria? It was never ours to begin with. He betrayed our allies, the Kurds. The Kurds aren't anybody's allies. They've always been an instrument of destabilization in the region. Israel's been an instrument for destabilization in the region. Saudi Arabia has been an instrument for destabilization. Turkey has been an instrument for destabilization in the region. But that's all shifting now. And Vladimir Putin has played the key role of helping to organize this, and so have the Chinese with backing up Putin. And now Trump is in agreement. No more wars, no more endless wars. That's it. Let these people solve their own problems. Well, if you let them solve their own problems, they're going to want to have economic development. If they become stable and they become able to have stability, work out their what are they going to do? They're going to have economic development. They're going to join the Belt and Road. They're going to be open for trade. Stability creates an environment for economic development. These people want to develop. These people want development. Right? That's what this is all about. It's about keeping the possibility of any development from occurring. Keeping a constant control and threat, a constant threat on the world's oil supply. It's a constant blackmail of the world that's been used with these irregular terrorists and so forth and so on. This is now ending. And not only is the empire, the British Empire, freaked out, but the entire establishment of the United States is totally freaked out, because the political parties don't exist anymore. They collapsed. The political parties, both the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, as you may have known them, do not exist. They have become arms of the intelligence agencies and the FBI. They are no longer independent of the deep state, or the structure of the deep state, which is a combination of the intelligence agencies, the FBI, the Justice Department, and so forth and so on. This is, and the same goes for the media. It's the same thing. They have been taken over, and we were entering a complete dictatorship. And the only force that's fighting this on a major scale outside of the average person in the country is Donald Trump. He's fighting this quasi-totalitarian information warfare society that's been created. This is the Cass Sunstein's control over the population through various different forms of media psychological warfare. It's all written in his book called Nudge. And so, where the interests of the people, in their self-interest and their interest of the nation, disappears, and they become distracted by 1,000 other issues that have nothing to do with the future of the nation, or their future, but they're just nudged in this way and nudged in that way and nudged in this way and nudged in this way, and this is how they're attacking Trump. They're attacking Trump on this, they're attacking Trump on that, they attacked him on this Ukrainian telephone call, and then Trump preempted everything by releasing the transcript, yet they're still going with it. So what's going on? Trump is at war with the whole system. So what does that mean? That means what? What it means is this. What's not being discussed is that Wall Street and the City of London, the whole global financial system, is in deep trouble. The Federal Reserve has been pumping money in to keep the banks' interbank lending from freezing up. And this has been going on now since the middle of September, and it's getting worse. And the general consensus is that something big happened that is being covered up or bailed out, but that it could have been hedge funds, it could have been a major bank, it could have been a number of major banks, it could have been the clients of major banks, but there's a big hole in the system that has to be filled every night, every day, with infusions of overnight lending or weekly lending by the Federal Reserve. If Trump is president, in the middle of a 2008 financial meltdown, I guarantee you, he's not going to do the bailouts. I guarantee you. Okay. So there's a showdown going on. Get this guy out now. Get Trump out now, because if you don't get him out now, he's going to bring in the economic policies of Hamilton, of FDR, of Lincoln, and of LaRouche. A national credit system, Glass-Steagall, all of that. And because the United States is no longer committed to these wars and destabilizing all these countries, the President of the United States can sit down and talk to Erdogan, talk to Putin, talk to Xi Jinping, talk to Modi, and in a crisis, they can come up with a four-power solution to creating a new financial architecture. They can do that. You couldn't do that if the United States was trying to overthrow Russia, overthrow China, overthrow North Korea, overthrow everybody in sight to create this empire, what they call, what the neocons call the end of history, right? The end of history. Free market, sovereignty. Every nation's sovereignty is removed. So this is what the United States has been doing ever since the Soviet Union collapsed. They've been on an all-out assault to destroy the sovereignty of every country on the planet and have everybody brought into, breaking up these countries. And Europe is not the countries of Europe are not really sovereign anymore because of the European Union. But this is what has been going on. This is the empire committed to go all the way to do the same to Russia and China. They created something called color revolutions. You're seeing it in Hong Kong. You saw it in Ukraine. You saw it in these different places, these color revolutions, in which billions and billions of dollars come in to organize them. These are not things that happen on their own. Donald Trump is going against all of that. Okay. So, how are the international bankers regrouping? How are they moving against Donald Trump? The impeachment thing is just a sideshow. The other hand, the hand you don't see, is the hand of people like Mark Carney, the current head of the Bank of England, the head of the Financial Stability Board, and on the board of the Bank for National Settlements. They intend to use their power as bankers to cut off the money, to cut off the funds, to cut off the credit to the industrial part of the economy, which is oriented towards Donald Trump, because they're trying to get jobs, they're trying to build factories, they're trying to get exports. So in Europe and in the United States and in Canada and in wherever this international financial system has influence, third world countries, etc., they're using the climate emergency as the excuse to cut off credit, shut down the industrial, by banking, through banking, not because these countries are going to all go green, but they intend to do it, and they have 130 of the major banks all lined up for the green initiative, for the green financial initiative. One of the key people is expecting to now soon announce for presidency, possibly, because the lackluster candidates, is Michael Bloomberg, who's saying he might put $500 million in to run for president. So, and he's part of this whole thing. Michael Bloomberg is in the middle of all of this. This whole crowd of bankers are now declaring war on Trump even more significantly than the impeachment process, because where are the industries that Trump wants to bring to the United States going to get their credit from if they're not so-called the carbon thing? And then they want a tax. They want to create a tax on coal, on gas, on oils, prohibitive tax, punitive tax, so that the funds go into the tax, into the coffers of the financial system through the government, through the taxing. This is how they plan to shut down the economy, and then they want to go ahead and blame it on Donald Trump. Donald Trump caused the deep collapse, the deep recession, and so forth and so on. So those are that's what you're dealing with. However, and the LaRouche movement is getting this out everywhere on this green financing. And we have this pamphlet, CO2 reduction is mass murder, initiated by Wall Street and the City of London. It's starting to get out there. But the key thing here is to understand that with someone like Donald Trump in the White House, he has no reason not to go for a credit system. He has no reason not, in those contexts of a financial collapse and them cutting off credit to industry, is to create credit through the government, but the Congress will try to block him. So you need a crisis to do this. But this is the war that we're in going on. But it's a global war. And it's the new paradigm that LaRouche has represented going way back, which is picked up in the Belt and Road, which is now picked up in this idea of a new security architecture for the world, which Putin has been pushing, which every country's sovereignty is respected. This is the new paradigm, the end of the empire. And this is a very scary period. But the American people, the population of the United States, will respond to Trump if he reaches down to their emotions that have been deeply embedded historically, going back to the American Revolution, the Civil War, the FDR period, the Kennedy period, the space program. If he can recall or revive in people that deeper sense of a nation, the deeper sense of the future of a nation. And he's starting to do that. And if he does that, and as the presidential campaign takes off, then they're going to be coming out with this crap, and he's going to be coming out with a direct appeal to the more profound sense of what it is to be an American. And you're going to see a clash between these two things coming into the campaign, coming into the election. And this is when we can actually change and uplift the American people and change and revive within them that which the world used to respect, the world used to love about Americans. It was the ability and the goodness and the desire to want to help other nations develop, and their anti-imperial quality of Americans. The anti-imperial quality of Americans is still there. It's still in their bones, in their spirit, you might say. This is what we think, and what I think can occur in this period between now going into the elections, as these clowns, have their stupid debates, and snip at each other and everything, and meanwhile you have the more profound questions of the economic crisis, of the end of these wars. You have these more profound issues that are being completely ignored by the so-called Democrats, and they're not Democrats. They're they're totally manipulated and controlled by the intelligence community and the public relations operations connected to that. So that's where we are, and it's an incredibly revolutionary period. The hotspot of China and India is now being resolved. Xi Jinping spent quite a lengthy meeting, private meeting with Modi, and they were discussing the next 100 years of relations between China and India. So what does that mean? China and India, which have ancient civilization, are now talking about what their relationship will be over a course of 100 years. What does that mean? That is not good for the empire. Because that's what we should be talking about with our citizens, is what is going to be our relationship to the world over the next 100 years. Our relationship to space, our relationship to the moon, to Mars, to the solar system, to the economic development that we need. That's the mindset that we need to revive in the United States. So this is quite a situation that we're in. Everything has shifted in the last 2 weeks. Everything. The war is on, and Trump is on the offensive. And he doesn't have any problems saying what he thinks. He has no problems telling it like it is. And so this is going to be an incredible situation. And but what the issue is going to be, what is the economic policy that Trump will adopt in the middle of the financial collapse? That's going to be the issue that determines the future of humanity.
Common stock investments have helped to make our country prosperous and powerful. Owning a share in American industry is like owning a share in the future of our nation. But remember, John Q., there is a risk as well as an advantage in owning any kind of property. So get the facts before you put your money to work.